lot recently, all of you, about our food supply chain.
This week, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue declared that any packing plant that has yet to comply with federal safety guidelines related to COVID-19 must quickly come up with a written plan as to how and when they will do so. He also clarified that state and local officials are not to interfere with the reopening of plants that have implemented the required safety measures. Perdue's announcement comes on the heels of the executive order signed last week by President Trump that delegated additional emergency powers to the secretary under the Defense Production Act. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association applauded the move.
So we were incredibly grateful for the president stepping in and putting out an executive order on this. This is the most important issue out there for our cattle producers right now, to get those cattle moved through the system. I think we've seen a lot of state and local governments with the best of intentions, but perhaps not the most accurate information or the most current information, dealing with this in different ways.
Lane said the OSHA and CDC checklist of safety measures for packing plants, a critical industry struggling with workers at some locations becoming infected with the virus, should mean decisions are based on science rather than emotion.
If they're walking the walk and meeting those obligations, let's make sure we're keeping the road clear for them to keep meeting that critical national need of getting beef to store shelves.
As customers grow nervous about a potential meat shortage, some grocery suppliers such as Costco, Hy-Vee, Kroger, and others were, as of midweek, limiting how many packages of meat customers could buy in at least some stores.
We continue to remind people there's no shortage of beef. There will be beef available in the grocery store for everybody, as long as people are buying an appropriate amount when they go to the grocery store.
Lane says cattle producers were already facing a tough situation before COVID-19, with the small number of beef packers making competitive pricing a challenge. Now, hog, cattle, and poultry producers are also dealing with slowdowns or shutdowns at some processing plants. This week, attorneys general from 11 states joined cattle industry groups and some members of Congress in asking for an investigation into possible price collusion among the 4 major meatpacking companies.
What they're getting paid for their cattle right now is as bad as anybody has seen it in as long as anyone can remember. And that's a tremendous burden for our producers in the country right now, especially as they're seeing this conversation about supply issues in the grocery store and beef flying off the shelves. It really pours salt in the wound for them because they're struggling to cover expenses and taking a loss on their cattle.
President Trump also directed the Department of Justice to start an investigation of its own. For Market to Market, I'm Colleen Bradford Krantz.